Hello, you Literature for Life here, bringing you guys a brand new video, and today we have something very special. I actually managed to make top 8 at an event. It's crazy. I've been playing for 12 years this year, and I finally managed to top a big event. It was an OTS championships, 65 players if I remember right, something like that. 6 rounds of Swiss, and then single elimination. My 6 rounds, so for one thing, I ended up playing Melodious, as you can tell from the video, title and everything. I bounced around between Melodious and Ritual Beast, and also kind of Ancient Gear, because those are the 3 decks that I know the most, that are that feel viable at the moment. But with Virtual Beast, I don't have Protoss, and I don't really want to pick up Protoss because it's more than likely going to get banned in a week or two whenever they announce the ban list. And as for Ancient Gear, I just did not trust it after I tried to use it at a case tournament, and I absolutely scrubbed out that event. So I decided to go with Melodious, and what ended up also really turning me to Melodious is I actually ran across another deck profile of another Melodious player who also made top 8 at his OTS championship, and I'm like, I'm going to give it a go again. It's really weird. This deck was doing really well for a while, and it kind of just dropped off as a rogue deck. You don't see people talking about it anymore. I think it's still a perfectly fine deck at the moment. I did not play against any Snake Eye Fiendsmith, and I did not play against any Yugioh Fiendsmith, and I think that's part of the reason why I did well, because most of the people who were playing Fiendsmith Snake Eye at my locals have switched over to Yugioh Fiendsmith, and even then, most of them didn't show up. I don't know why, but all the people who were playing Yugioh Fiendsmith did manage to make the top 4, and if I remember right, when I saw the announcements on who did actually win the whole thing, it was Yugioh Fiendsmith. So how did I do? In the main 6 rounds, I ended up going 5-1. My only loss was a Tenpai player. I ended up playing against Tenpai 3 times at the OTS. Freaking Tenpai, I hate playing against. Even with this deck, Melodious has a very good Tenpai matchup, but it's still terrifying because you let them do anything and they win. It's so you really gotta very much game them and try to win as fast as possible and stop them from playing. And that's actually why I lost on the second Tenpai player, because he managed to break my board, and it just was not good. All things considered, I played against Labyrinth first round. That was brutal. Labyrinth is not a good matchup, and I was also playing against probably the best Labyrinth player in the region, and he ended up, it was a close game. I ended up winning, partly because game 2 I drew a Lightning Storm, and then Game 2, I went first, and I set up a good board and was able to stop him from making plays. Game 3, I drew Lightning Storm, and he did not have Lord of the Heavenly Prison to protect his stuff. So it was just kind of clear board, go for game. That was pretty much it. Round 2, I played against Tenpai, beat him. Round 3, I played against Traptrix, Kashtira Diabellstar. It was very weird. I had been hearing other people talking about the guy for the past couple rounds, and how he was really trouncing people. But then I played against him, and I think he was tilting hard. I felt kind of bad. I 2-0'd him very quickly. I've played enough Traptrix to know how the deck plays, and he did not see enough of his Kashtira or Diabellstar engine. He was using the Diabellstar engine to get the trap that no one plays. It's really good, and to set up another negate and stuff, which is really a smart idea, honestly, and something I'm kind of interested in seeing if other people will try out once Diabellstar continues to get cheaper and cheaper, or gets hit. But anyways, then after that I played against Tenpai, and that was my loss. I just did not open well, and I got destroyed. The round after that, I played against another Tenpai, 2-0'd him, and then for the final round of Swiss, I played against Gimmick Puppet, and that was stressful. I have not played against Gimmick Puppet. I've played or tinkered around with Gimmick Puppet. I find the new playstyle very boring. I wish they would have gone a different route with the deck. deck, but I digress. And ended up winning, partly because of Spooky Dogwood and stuff, and just trying to not die. But then, as soon as we get into the top cut, I play against another Gimmick Puppet player who clearly had been playing the deck longer, because the first guy, I interrupted his boards, and we kind of talked about it. He really could have won a couple of those games. But the second Gimmick Puppet player that I played against in the top cut, he knew the deck way better, and yeah, I ended up losing. We went into game 3. It was a close game, all things considered, but we both got down to under 2,000, but when one deck can just make a big burn card, it's not, there's not much you can really do. It was really funny, though, because he had never seen Dominus Purge, and I opened it all 3 games. And it was very funny. I also blame the fact that I probably did not shuffle well enough going into Top Cut as much as I should have, because they make you sort your deck, which I didn't know, and so by the time you get it back and everything, they don't shuffle it for you, so you gotta shuffle. And I don't think I shuffled well enough, because I opened a hand of nothing but hand traps going first, had no choice but to pass, and then tried to stop his plays. Next turn I drew another hand trap, couldn't play, and then he just OTK'd me. So yeah, that was how that went. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the deck profile proper, and I'll talk about my choices and how we went about it. So first and foremost, we got 3 Refrain. Refrain is the Stratos of the deck. On summons, she searches one of your Melodious monsters, and then while she's in the pendulum scale, you can target one of your fusions, and then Foolish Burial any of your Melodious monsters. This card is like arguably the best card the best main deck monster, because it's just so freaking good and is your main starter. If you don't open Ostinato or the First Movement solo, you want to see this card, because this is the one and only normal summon that's good in this deck. Every other Melodious does not have a normal summon effect. So yeah, you need 3 of her. Then we got Melodious Poplar. That's what couplet is. Whenever she's added from anywhere to the hand, that goes from grave or deck or extract or wherever to the hand, you get to reveal her, especially when a level 4 or lower Melodious from hand or graveyard. And then while she's in the scale, if you have nothing but Melodious monsters or control no monsters, you can add any Melodious spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. There's only 2 Melodious spell or traps that have the Melodious name in them. That's Concerto and Illusion, and you do not play Illusion, so you have 1 target for her, but it's a really good target. God, if we ever get Electromite back, this card's gonna be even more broken, because Electromite can add it from extract to hand and then trigger its effect. God, please give us Electromite back, Konami, please. Next up, we got 3 Sonata. Sonata is a free special summon. If you have Melodious on the field, you just plop her on the field, and while she's on the field and with special summon, all Melodious you control get 500 attack and defense. Really good card all around. Her being a level 3 is also very important for various things. She's just simply an extender, and if you do open up a normal summon and her, you can go into the link and hopefully be able to play from that. It kind of depends on what your opponent has and everything. Next, we got 2 Soprano. I know that's going to be kind of controversial. Some people prefer 3. I like 2. I'm also playing the Tam Tam package, so that's another reason why. But Soprano on special summon, once per turn, can add a Melodious from your graveyard to your hand. And then, not a hard once per turn, you can fusion summon using her and any other Melodious monsters on the field. That fusion summon effect is not a hard once per turn, so if you cycle her multiple times, you can keep doing it. The effect to add back is a hard once per turn, unfortunately. I kind of wish those were flip-flop, because this deck needs the recursion, because it eats through its hand so fast, it's not even funny. For the one of Melodiouses, I have 1 Aria, who, provided to a special summon, gives all of your special summon Melodious monsters immunity to battle and targeting, which is really good. And then I have 1 Elegy, who is kind of the same thing. Elegy, if she was special summoned, she gives all of your Melodious monsters immunity to destruction by card effects, and also a 300 attack buff. Now, I know a lot of people have moved away from the Aria Elegy lock, but I'm not gonna lie, the lock really helped me out very heavily in a lot of my games, especially against Tenpai. Something I've noticed with Tenpai is a lot of them are playing Dark Hole, Regeki, and Lightning Storm now. to break boards, because hand traps are just not as good anymore, at least in depending on what deck you're playing and everything. I went with a hand trap route with this deck and it worked, but then again I also didn't play against the tier 0 deck in the moment, but I digress. The Elegy came up way more than I thought she ever would, and normally I would side her out half the time, but I actually kept her in and she came up a lot, even against like Labyrinth with like the destruction traps and stuff. Granted, the guy switched out to like IDP, and I got freaking the new linear equation cannon. I forget what it's called. It's the new one, not the old one. Simultaneous equation cannon, I think is what it's called. I got hit by that. I lost my whole field to banishing. Was funny when it happened. Next up, we got one Tam Tam. Tam Tam on summon, special summon, provided you have another Melodious out on field, gets you to search for any polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So that is not a once per turn. That's not a hard once per turn. So anytime you summon her, you can grab back Poly from your deck or graveyard. Very, 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 very broken. I looped her multiple times, and there's some very funny shenanigans you can do where you can make the link and use its effect for no cost, effectively. Where basically if you use her along with Baka to make the Link monster, Bloom Harmonist, you get to discard the Poly that you added off of Tam Tam for the special summon effect of Bloom Harmonist, and then Baka will bring back Tam Tam, and Tam Tam will grab back Poly from the graveyard. So then you literally got 3 monsters for the price of 2 and not having it to discard. So I do like this package a lot. I know a lot of people don't like it. It can be bricky sometimes, but to me Poly is never a brick, because it is another way to fusion summon and another way to get stuff on field very quickly. So I like it. It worked for me. I know some people are going to say it's not good. I don't care. It's good. I like it. Tam Tam also has a random burn effect, because of course it does. If it's sent to the graveyard for the fusion summon of a Melodious fusion, you can have that monster lose 500 attack permanently to inflict 500 damage to your opponent. I think that effect is not a once per turn. It is. It is not. So theoretically, if you keep looping her, you can keep doing more burn damage. And of course, while the 500 attack debuff is permanent, you're usually going to be removing your fusions from the field for a moment anyways, so then they're going to lose it, or you're going to use them for fusion fodder anyways. So not the worst thing in the world. Next, I do also have one Shapina. Shapina is the only good main deck in Maestra. There's only one other one, and it's just not worth it, unfortunately. Mozarta was the original boss monster of the deck, and she's just not worth playing. If she summoned from graveyard, oh my god, but no, she summons from hand. So Shapina is the only one you play. Once per turn, you can target any light monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can't activate non-light monster effects this turn that you do that. That's not bad. You can use this to grab back any light fairy, which is really good. You can't grab back Effect Failure, unfortunately, but you can grab back Herald, and back when Honest was played in the deck, you could grab back Honest, which is always funny. I won't lie, part of me has been tempted to play Honest again, because sometimes it comes up where I'm like, wow, I really wish I could run over this big beat stick. But anyways, that's it for the Melodious, like, core. Altogether, it's fine. I wish Melodious had more main deck monsters that were really good. Some people play Cannon. I don't. I just never really cared for her. She's a once per turn special summon, but I digressed. Moving on to the hand traps. We got Triple Ash. That's pretty par for the course. Ash Blossom, you know, just being able to stop stuff. We got triple Herald of the Orange Light. I keep wanting to call it Arc Light. Herald of the Orange Light, if you don't know what it does, whenever your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send it and another fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard to negate that activation and destroy it. This I usually saved for big hand traps or big effect monsters. I will also be honest, I only ever saw it a handful of times. One of which I saw 2 Herald and 2 Melodious monsters in my opening hand, along with an Ostinato. And I was going second against Tempai. It was hilarious. That being said, I've always had a love-hate relationship with this card. It eats up so much hand advantage, so I'm not the biggest fan of it. But it's such a key card in certain circumstances, like being able to stop a Nibiru, being able to stop a D-Shifter, and god, this deck loses so hard to D-Shifter, it's not even funny. But yeah, so yeah, very good card right there, all around. You know, I don't know what else I need to say. Next up, we got 3 Drone Lock. I decided to main Drone Lock with this format. I figured, okay, there's a lot of searching. I thought I'd be playing against Fiendsmith Snake Eye more, or Fiendsmith Yugioh, but I didn't. And because of that, it did very little, if anything. It did nothing in the Labyrinth matchup. It did nothing in the, it actually hurt the Traptrix player, which was funny. It did almost nothing to Tenpai. I think I did it one time on a Tenpai player, and he already had full combo in hand, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just screwed anyway. So it's like, yeah, I'd probably move Draw and Lock back to the side deck unless Fiendsmith Snake Eye or Fiendsmith Yugioh picks up more at my locals. As for what I'd probably switch out for it, maybe Effect Filler, I don't know. I used to play Effect Filler, but I switched it out for a Draw, because I figured it'd be more impactful, but it really was not. Speaking of effect negation, I got triple Imperm. Imperm's really good, you know, you just say no. And then finally, for the star player of the day, Dominus Purge. This card is effectively 3 more copies of Ash Blossom. So if your opponent has a card on field, that you can activate this card from hand. And what it does is when your opponent activates a card or effect that would add a card from their deck to your hand, you can activate this card to negate that card effect, and then if you have a trap in graveyard, you destroy that card as well. So unfortunately, you don't get to destroy the card unless you have a trap. So unless you've used another Dominus previously or an Imperm previously, you're not going to get to resolve the destruction effect, but you will still get the negation. That actually came up once when I was playing against Gimmick Puppets, where it was like, oh, I guess I lose my field spell now. And I'm like, no, actually you don't. It only destroys it if I have a trap in my grave, which is annoying. If you activate it from your hand, you are locked out of Dark, Water, and Fire. Yeah, Dark, Water, and Fire for the rest of the duel. So you can't activate any effects with Dark, Water, and Fire. Now you might be going, oh, that's not too bad. You play all lights. Well, the thing is that it does stop hand traps. So you lose your Ash Blossom. If you sided in Spooky Dogwood, you can't do Dogwood. If you sided in DD Crow, you can't do DD Crow. So you really got to think about when you're going to use this over Ash Blossom or use Ash Blossom over this. Typically speaking, if I opened this, I would try not to use it unless I absolutely had to, and I set it more than I actually activated it from hand. And that caught a lot of people off guard, because they'd always think it's an Imperm, and then you flip this and they're like, what? That's not an Imperm. So, yeah, it caught a lot of people off guard. This card is very, very good, and it's something that hard carried me through the day because it caught people off guard so freaking much. And hey, having 3 more copies of Ash Blossom is really good. Next up is for the rest of the deck engine, mainly the spells. I played, of course, 3-0 Sonato. You have to play 3-0 Sonato. I was scared for a while that Konami might consider eliminating this card because Melodious was doing so well, and then again it fell off like the face of the earth. So I'm hoping maybe it's escaped their ire, because Konami hates it when cheap decks do well, you know? Anyways, Sonato, it's branded fusion. You send 2 materials needed for a Melodious fusion from your deck to your graveyard, and you fusion summon that monster. It gets destroyed during the end phase, and then you summon back its materials if you still have them in the graveyard. Very good card all around, not once per turn. So if it gets negated, you can still play another one, or if you wipe your board, because one thing that makes it balanced is you got to have no monsters on field. But there's ways to get around that. There's ways to clear out your board after you make it. And of course, also, again, because it's not once per turn, if it gets ashed and you have another one, you can just be like, okay, I'm going to do a Sonato again. So, yeah, very good card all around. Absolutely necessary as a 3-of. Next up is First Movement Solo. This card is basically E-Telly for the deck. You special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious from your hand or deck. And then you're locked into Melodious for the rest of the duel. I mean, rest of the turn. Oh my god, if it was for the rest of the duel, it'd be horrible. It's for the rest of the turn. And unfortunately, just like Sonato, you can't activate it unless you have no monsters on field, which is very, very, very annoying. And it's really funny too, because this is one of the worst cards in the deck for the longest time. Just did not have any good targets, and Refrain thankfully fixed that. still a good card now. You know, it does lock into Melodious, but thankfully Melodious have an actually good end board by themselves now, so it's not a horrible lock. Next up, we got 2 Concerto. Concerto is the fusion spell, and it's the Melodious spell that you're searching off of good old Couplet. And it lets you fusion summon for a Melodious fusion by using monsters from your hand, field, or in your pendulum zones, which is really, really cool, and I like it. I want to see more of this interesting fusion shenanigans that you can do with decks. Also, if one of your Melodious fusions leaves the field, you can bottom deck this card to draw a card. This card is also a hard once per turn on both effects, so that's another reason why I like Poly. It gives you more fusions fodder. That is also Soprano comes in handy because she's another fusion summon. So you got effectively 3 ways to fusion summon, which is always really good. Speaking of Poly, just to remind you, I do play the 1 Poly. And finally, I play 1 Pot of Desires. Why 1? You might be wondering. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't realize I only had 1 until I was actually putting it together, and I'm like, you know what, it worked actually quite well. I don't like 2 in this deck. The Pot of Desires, you go through your deck so fast in this deck. This is exactly 40 cards, and Desires eats through the rest of your deck so hard, and if you have to activate Desires because it's the only playable card in your hand, you are screwed, because you are very likely to banish all of your good stuff. I have had so many times where I've activated Desires before having to do any searching or special summoning or anything like that, and then I just banish my Ostinatos, or I banish my Refrain, or I banish my Concerto. Speaking of, it's also because of that partly that I play 2 Concerto instead of 1, because losing your Concerto sucks. So I do like the 1 Desires. I might cut it for something else, like maybe a Called By, because that could have came in handy a few times. But also refilling your hand and getting more hand traps after you're doing full combos is really nice. And that's kind of my logic behind it. I'm also using my Marincess logic, which is a deck I want to return to eventually. But anyways, yeah, that's it. That's it for the main deck, and now we're going to talk about the extract. And this is where I know people are going to be controversial about it, because I've run a very unorthodox engine in my extract for the most part. So, first and foremost, 2 Baka. Before you flame me, I was playing 3, but, like, I was really thinking about it. I'm like, I have never once in my time playing Melodious used all 3 Baka. Never once. And I'm like, I have this 1 extra space that I am using for a 3rd Baka that might hypothetically come up and never has once. So I really thought about it, and I cut it down to 2 because, again, it just doesn't come up, and you have so many ways to recur it from graveyard to hand. Shapina can do it. Soprano can do it. It's like, and you cycle through those all the time anyways, so if you really need to, like, recycle this, you can. I don't see the logic behind playing 3 anymore, like, really, because it just frees up so much extra space just cutting it down to 2, along with some other stuff. Anyways, next up we got 2 Shuberta. Shuberta is a quick effect, DD Crow ×3, can only be used once while she's on the field, and she gains 200 attack for each banished card that you do with that. This card is one of those fun cards that you reset with, like, with our next one, Flowering Etoile. So it's a really good card. It's very, very, very good against a lot of graveyard reliant decks, and even some decks that aren't graveyard reliant but happen to have some effects in grave. It comes up quite a bit. Next up, we have Flowering Etoile, the Melodious Magnificat. This is your boss monster and a key part of your end board. As a quick effect, you can banish as many Melodious monsters you control as you want to return as many face-up cards your opponent controls as you want up to the number of Melodious that you banished. That is a quick effect. That is a... you don't have to return anything. So the funny thing is, you banish everything, and then if you want, you can return stuff. So if your opponent nibs you and you have her out, you can just chain her effect, banish your whole board. The nib fails to resolve because there's nothing on field, or maybe there is and it's your opponent's stuff. And then, yeah, she also has an effect where if she leaves the field by your opponent's card, you can special summon any Melodious from your deck or extra deck. And also, I found out today, well, not today, yet the day of the tournament, that the temporary banishing, your special summon monsters, don't forget they were originally special summoned. I've gotten into this argument with people before, and I thought that, okay, yeah, it makes sense, they forget, it, you know, it's like being Book of Moon. No, they don't forget. So if you banish Arya and Elegy for this, they don't forget they were originally special summoned, and so their effects are still alive, even after they come back. That is crazy. Does it make any sense? Honestly, to me, no, but apparently that's how it works. That's how the judges ruled it and everything. So, I don't know. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea. Next up, I have one Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir. Choir is the original boss monster of the deck, and it's still a really solid card even nowadays. She's a U-Bell, can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and your opponent takes any damage that, well, they don't take any damage that you would have taken, but you can make them take the damage difference between this monster's attack and that monster's attack, and then destroy their monster. So yeah, very good card all around. It's annoying as all hell for decks to get over, and if you summon this against Tenpai, they only have, like, they have to have Forbidden Droplets and Perm, or they have to be playing the, I think it's called Black Rose Moonlight Dragon or something in their extract. Like, they have to be able to turn this thing's effects entirely off, not just activated effects, but even just like the actual I can't be destroyed in battle or card effect. It's really funny seeing a Tenpai player try to figure out how to get around this card. Next up, for the Link monster, I play one of. Some people play two of. I don't think it's necessary to play two of. I never had an issue of resolving her, so it's like, eh. Anyways, on Link summon, you discard one card, special summon two Melodious monsters with different levels from your deck to the zone she points to in face of defense position. You cannot summon anything except for Melodious to turn you do this effect. And also, if a Melodious that points to battles, well, I think it's attacks. Yeah, if a Melodious monster this card points to attacks, your opponent can't activate cards or effects in response. But that never, like, happens because I just let fusion her off because I don't want her to stay on field because it's a foul attack. So that's all the Melodious extra deck monsters. Moving on to my other stuff where we get into some techs. So first and foremost, we have good old Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is a level 10 synchro that needs a tuner plus a non-tuner to go into, but you can treat a light or a dark monster as a tuner to go into its summon. And on synchro summon, you banish a card that your opponent controls. This card is really stupid. It also has another effect that the only one that you have to worry about because you only play lights is that if you use a light monster to go for its synchro summon, synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. So this thing, it comes out, it's unaffected by effect failure and other stuff, so they have to impermanent to stop the effect to banish. This thing is stupidly good, and I'm so glad I picked it up for this deck. It's really easy to summon. Sonata plus either Shuberta or Baka. It's so good. It comes up a lot. This card won me games. Then we got one Guardian Chimera. I really wanted to have another fusion target to go into for if stuff happens, and I only made this guy once in the entire duel, in the entire day, and he did nothing for me, because I made him while facing off the Labyrinth, which was round 1, and I totally forgot that the previous turn he had used freaking Lord of the Heavenly Prison, and he had the big lady out, the 3k one, and so none of his stuff could be destroyed, and I was still waking up. I fused into it to destroy his back row, and I'm like, oh wait, you Heavenly Prison. He was like, yeah. He's just like, yeah, draw your one card, and then I tried to do the rest of the combo, and he's like, okay, simultaneous equation cannon. It's like, oh, fun. My whole board's banished. Moving on, we got one Gravity Controller. There's a really cheeky thing you can do with this and Baka. You summon Baka to the extra deck into the extra monster zone, and then you link her off for this, and in that way, so the reason why you do that is that if Baka gets negated with effect failure or imperm or something, if you have a Melodious in your graveyard, you can link off the Baka for this, and Baka's graveyard effect will trigger, summoning back your Melodious from your graveyard. So you can still keep your combo going. On that note, you get rid of them in your extra monster zone by tributing him off for a couplet or a elegy, because otherwise he just sits there, eats up your extra monster zone space. So, moving on then, I got one Protector of the Agent's Moon. This card has it has a few effects, but the main effect you're using it for is that you can tribute off any fairy monster to destroy one card your opponent controls. If your opponent skill drains you, you make this with 2 fairy monsters, and then tribute it to destroy your opponent's skill drain. Because you tribute for cost, it's no longer on field, so then you don't have to worry about skill drain negating it. It comes up in other niche scenarios where there's something annoying to destroy. I would have actually won my game against the Tenpai player that I lost to if I had... So, I made this. He had 1 face down and a field spell, and I'm like, I'm going to get rid of that field spell so he can't kill me next turn. And the face down was a D barrier, and I should have destroyed that because I had already been D-barriered that turn, and he had no way of killing me next turn anyway because he's still, like, it was a very back and forth thing, and I had one of my side cards, and I should have just popped the D-barrier so then I could not, so then I wouldn't have, I even thought it was a D-barrier, and I'm like, no, get rid of the field spell. Stupid me. Especially since he just had another field spell in hand anyways. It's like, oh, okay. So anyways, pro tip, hit the back row unless, like, you know for a fact that it's not something you gotta worry about. One line at a Light Charmer. This never came up, but like if your opponent effect fillers you can make it, steal your opponent's effect filler if they have another light monster in graveyard, and then link it off for big link plays. One Haggard Lygidos. This also did not come up on the actual tournament day, but I have used it in the past. You make it with 2 different monsters, and then you can banish a monster from your field or graveyard, target a monster that your opponent controls, and that monster's attack becomes the attack of the monster that you banished. And if you banish a reptile, you get to draw a card. Now, the play is, one of the big plays you can do with it is you banish itself to make something your opponent controls 800, and then you draw a card. And now you got no monsters on field, so you can Ostinato, or you can do a first movement. Well, you can't do first movement solo, but you can do an Ostinato. I have won games before by banishing, like, an effect filler or a draw or something from graveyard to make something 0, and then just be able to crash over it. So this is one of your ways to get over big monsters sometimes. It just didn't come up on the actual tournament day in any particular way. Then we got our 1 access code talker, because he comes up once in a blue moon. I'll be honest, everything here, except for like that, and maybe him, you could switch out, so that's 4 flex spots. Personally, I think Chaos Angel belongs in here, so I'm going to move that over. That's 3 flex spots you can totally switch around. They just don't come up enough. I guess you could say Lina's also not a flex spot, but that's dependent on what you think and what you're playing against in your area. So at minimum, that's 2 flex spots. At max, that's 4. Other stuff that I would consider playing is Typhon, Abyss Dweller, and Baguska. Something really fun with Baguska is that if you have him out and you have Baka out, you can still resolve your Melodious fusion effects because Baka prevents your Melodious fusions from being negated. Well, they're activated effects. So you can still use them under Baguska. So you can sit on a Baguska and still use Shiberta effect, or you can still use Flowering Etoile. Stuff like that. It's really funny, but you don't, like, it's not something you need. I'm probably going to switch back into that. I'm going to take him out for a Baguska probably. Sorry about my dog barking. But anyways, that is it for the extra deck. Nothing else really to it. Nothing really special or crazy, I guess. Although I know people are going to be angry at me for not playing 3 Baka and stuff. Finally, on the side deck, let's take a look at the side deck here. 3 DD Crow. You can't play Bitchute in this deck because of Ostinato and First Movement Solo, so DD Crow it is. I sided this in multiple times, never saw it once. So it's like, oh, okay. And you do also have Shiberta, and Shiberta is basically 3 DD Crow in 1 card. So again, like, this could be something else if you really want it to be, but this is my going second stuff, so I usually side this in when I know I'm going second. If you have both Charmies, you can play that instead. I am not dishing out $40 for a card that's going to be irrelevant in a few months, unless it goes down in price or I get more invested in the game. Anyways, moving on, because I'll be honest, I hate this format, so please, God, let the next ban list be good. Next up, we got 3 Spooky Dogwood. Spooky Dogwood, I put it in because everybody kept complaining about how good it is, and you know what? It is good. It did save me playing against Tenpai, and it did save me playing against Gimmick Puppet, because they can't FTK. Which is funny. So it stopped the FTK. This card actually did lose me a game last week when I played in the case tournament, because I chained it to my opponent summoning something off of Chundra, and he's like, oh, okay, so he summons Genroku, who has 0 attack, sets 2 pass, and it's like, oh, end of turn, I didn't gain any life, I lose half my life. Great. Moving on, for more Go second cards, I played 2 Lightning Storm. Kind of want to play stuff like Regeki and Dark Hole and stuff, I don't know. This deck has a hard time going second sometimes, so I kind of even want to main Dark Hole or Lightning Storm, I don't know, I haven't really fully decided. Lightning Storm is kind of tough in this deck too, because if you draw it later and you have your skills up, you can't activate it, so it's like, eh. But it is still a good card, and it did win me games against Labyrinth and Tenpai and stuff, so it's like good. Moving on for my going first sides, we got 3 Daruma Cannon. Daruma Cannon is amazing in this deck. So, okay, here's the thing. You banish your whole board with Magnificent Meerkat at Flying Etoile to bounce your opponent's stuff. And they're like, okay, I'm going to keep extending. And they keep extending. And now they got a full board of links. And you're like, ha! Or, even worse, I was playing against Tenpai. And my opponent had the level 7 Tenpai Synchro and a full board of Tenpai monsters. Because he was going hard on the extension. And he had the field spell up. So I flipped this over. And he lost his whole board. This card is so good in this deck, and I love it for going first. It helps insulate your board and your presence, and like everybody's gonna be so focused on the monsters they don't even notice the back row half the time, so it's like, cool. This card wins me games. Next up, also, we got Triple Solemn Judgment. This card is another one of my go first cards. I side it in to counter board breakers mainly. So, and mainly board breakers that Meerkat can't dodge, or that Arya and LG can't protect me from. So, like, take for instance, most notably, that's Evenly Matched, freaking Forbidden Droplets, and Dark Roller No More. And I did use this on a Droplets, and I did use it to stop some other stuff. This card, Solemn Judgment's always good. It's like, oh, cool, I pay half my life points and say nope. So, yeah. And then finally, for the last card, Goes in Match. This card, I never sided it, I'll be honest. Everything I played against was mono attribute, so it's like, what's the point? So, if I'm gonna, like, I guess the only deck I could have sided this in against was freaking, the Kashtira Traptrix Diabell Star deck. And it didn't do it. I didn't need it. So yeah. Anyways, this card, I'm probably gonna cut it out for Harpy's Feather Duster or something. I don't know. Something, another board breaker. So yeah, that's it. That's the deck. That's everything. I love Melodious. I love this deck. I love playing this deck, and it did me well. I think things would have been different if I actually played against meta decks. Well, other than Tenpai. This deck, again, you don't have an easy win against Tenpai, but you do have an easier time against Tenpai with Melodious than other decks do. So it's not like it's not a guaranteed win, obviously, but like Tenpai, I'm not scared when playing this deck against Tenpai, like I am when playing against Tenpai with other decks, where it's like, we gotta be careful. This deck, I'm like, oh, I'm playing against Tenpai again. Yay. Let's see how this goes. And yeah, so if I played against actual, like, Fiendsmith Snake Eye or Fiendsmith Yubel, I don't think I would have had as easy of a day. Those decks just make such oppressive boards and play through every single hand trap. It's just not fun or fair to play against. So there is a regional coming up next weekend. I'm not planning to go explicitly because it's at another store that I know is way more competitive, and it's a regional. So unless the ban list comes out between then and now and is effective for that regional, I ain't going. But yeah, this is my Melodious build. I'm probably going to change some things up, and maybe I'll do an update. I don't know. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to be able to say, yay, I finally got my first event top. Yay, I'm wiped. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day. Rate, comment, subscribe, and see y'all later. Bye. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider rating, commenting, and subscribing. Sharing the video helps as well. If you especially really like it, please do consider being a channel member. Every little bit helps out. And hey, also why not check me out on my other social media pages. Thank you, and have a great day.